So where was this person who I'd seen not 20 seconds before? Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you've just joined us. My name is Snell, and before we get into today's video, I just wanted to basically say thank you to those of you who have very kindly reached out to me over the last couple of weeks to kind of say, you know, hey, are you okay? You've been a bit quiet lately. Thank you, you guys. That's been really kind of you to do that. As you can see, I am still here, but yeah, things have been incredibly busy at the moment. For those of you who don't know, my fiance and I are finally getting married in 2 weeks, and so the last kind of month or so has just been us mostly running around like headless chickens trying to get everything organised and sorted. We were meant to have got married last April, and then about a month or so before, obviously we had the first lockdown here in the UK, and then that kind of scuppered those plans. So yeah, here we are a year and a half later, and about to finally walk down the aisle. So yeah, all incredibly exciting, slightly scary, incredibly stressful, but yeah, I'm excited. And so yeah, everything is all good here, just yeah, busy and stressful, but all good. So that'll mean that for a couple of weeks, from about mid-August to beginning of September, I'm going to be AWOL, I'm afraid, again. But obviously then, you know, that would mean that we'll have been getting married and then we'll be away on honeymoon. However, that also means that this is where you guys come in, because I've been doing some thinking and I'd quite like to, you know, just kind of let you guys get to know me a little bit more, other than, you know, just someone who sits in front of a camera and tells creepy and true crime stories. Yeah, and I'd love for you to get to know me a little bit better. So I thought that one of the first videos I'll do when I get back from honeymoon is to do a bit of a Q&A session with you guys. So any kind of questions that you have for me, it doesn't have to be connected to the channel at all. It can be, you know, about kind of my life away from the channel. It can be about, you know, the true crime and paranormal stuff I talk about. It can be anything you like. But yeah, make sure you get those questions in, and then in the next video I do when I get back, then yeah, I will collate them all and make it into a video for you guys. Also, this would also be the perfect time for you guys to, if you have any kind of requests that you'd love me to do for the channel, you know, any specific stories or anything that you'd like me to cover, then again, this is the perfect time for you to get those in. So, with that all being said, enough of my random non-spooky waffling. Grab a drink, dim the lights, and let's get into today's video. So this story takes place a fair number of years ago now, longer than I care to admit, I have to say. I was about 18 and working at a children's daycare setting, and the building we were in was connected to a college, which back in the day used to be a workhouse. Now, for those of you who aren't really too sure what a workhouse is, it was kind of like the last stop before you became homeless and you were out in the streets. So you'd get a bed for the night, you'd get a meal, but that was about it. It really wasn't a very nice place to end up in. Conditions were awful, and abuse was kind of rife. And not only that, but if you went in with your family, it was very likely you wouldn't see them again because you'd all be separated into different kind of sections of the place. So all the men would be in one section, women would be in the other, and children would be in yet another. So yeah, although it was, like I said, like the last stop before the streets, it wasn't a place where you wanted to end up. So, like I said, I was 18 when I first started working there, and pretty much from the moment I walked in, I kind of got the feeling that there was something there. I couldn't really put my finger on it at the time, to be honest. It was just a feeling, but it wasn't really something that I focused on that much because at the time I was just trying to get the job, really. But yeah, I ended up getting it, hooray. And yeah, it wasn't too long before my feelings initially that I'd had at the start were kind of confirmed for me. Over the first week or so of working there, I would still get the feeling like I was being watched, even when like I was alone. And every so often I'd get like flashes of shadow like out of the corner of my eye, like a shadow person phenomenon or whatever. And yeah, it was kind of unsettling, but I mean, by that point I'd kind of gotten used to living in a haunted house, so it was just kind of a case of, okay, well, I live in a haunted house and now I work in a haunted building. Cool, okay, fine. So my first kind of major experience came towards the end of my first week there. I'd been stood at the sink in the room that I was working in, washing up the children's bowls from after they'd had their tea, and we'd basically arranged it so all the children were down at one side of the room and we'd kind of blocked off the tea area to get everything cleaned up and tidy and, you know, ready for the next activity or whatever. And so I was stood at the sink washing up and I felt a tug on my trousers, the kind of tug you'd feel like if a child wanted your attention. So I didn't think anything of it. I looked down and I was kind of expecting to see, you know, one of the children asking to go to the bathroom or have a drink or something like that, and there was no one there. And I looked around and all the children were still all on the other side of the room along with my work colleagues. And yeah, I know what I felt. It was a very hard, definite tug. And yeah, that kind of confirmed to me that, okay, yes, there is absolutely something here. Then a week after, I believe it was either on a Monday or a Tuesday, I'd been put on the early shift. And so I got there about probably 7:30 to 7:45 in the morning. We opened at 8, and I found another one of my work colleagues sat waiting for me, and I found it really weird because although the gates to the college and nursery were open, she'd chosen to sit on the steps of the building on the other side of the road opposite. And so I walked up to her and she says, "Oh, Nell, I'm so glad you're here. I hate being in the building by itself because it's haunted and I get really, really scared. Yeah, can we go in now, please?" So I don't have to go in myself. And that was the moment where I thought, aha, yes, I knew it. I'm not going crazy. I've just, had it confirmed by someone else. Cool. And so, yeah, we went in together and started the day. Over time, I started to learn that pretty much everyone who works there had experienced something at one point or another. And sometimes they could be small things like seeing things out of the corner of their eye, or something like that. And other times they were considerably more in your face occurrences. I remember that there was one occasion where a group of us were sat in the staff room during our lunch break, and we all sat around the table and all just chatting and relaxing. And all of a sudden, both the microwave and the kettle turned on by themselves at exactly the same time. Bearing in mind, none of us were sat anywhere near either the microwave or the kettle. We just kind of looked at both of them, looked at each other, and promptly decided that maybe lunchtime is over and we should get back to work. One particular occurrence that kind of really stands out in my mind when I think back to these times was the time when I was taking the lunch trolley back down to the kitchen after the children had had their lunch. And I was just turning the corner with the trolley to go down the corridor. And as I turned, I saw like the back of someone as they walked through the kitchen door at the end of the hall, and the door kind of closed. So I didn't think anything of it, carried on pushing the trolley down and wheeled the trolley to the kitchen, went to say hello to whoever it was who'd gone in before me. No one was there. There was a single window that you couldn't really get through unless you kind of climbed over the sink, and even then it led out to a courtyard that didn't go anywhere. And there was a door that led out into the college itself, but that was locked and had a stack of chairs pushed up against it. So where was this person who I'd seen not 20 seconds before? To this day, I still have no clear answer. There was absolutely nowhere where someone could have been hiding, and I saw someone walk through, and I even heard the door close behind them. So where did they go? I've no idea, and it's still something that kind of gives me goosebumps when I think about it. it wasn't just us staff who would be experiencing things though. It's widely believed that children are particularly susceptible to the paranormal, and some of the children who we looked after definitely picked up on something or someone that was there who shouldn't have been there. In the room that I mostly worked in, there was always a particular place in the room or just outside it, where the children would quite often look over and react to something that we couldn't see. They would either smile or wave or say hello, and and things like that. And we'd always kind of look at them and look to the area that they were like looking at and reacting to, and obviously we couldn't see whatever it was that was there, and that was a little bit unnerving. But the fact that the children didn't seem overly worried, that was kind of more reassuring, to be honest, or at least it was for me. I will say though that there was one time where it was very clear that whatever was around was not friendly, at least not friendly towards the children, who could see him, her, whatever it was. We were in the soft play area, and this was a room where like the children would have like a ball pit to play in, and soft furnishings to jump on and jump off, and generally be kids really. And it was me and another of my workmates, and we had a small group of children, probably about 4 or 5 I want to say, and they were all running around and jumping and generally being kids and having fun. And all of a sudden, at exactly the same moment, they all turn and look towards the door and promptly burst into tears. And all of a sudden they're like kind of clinging on to us, screaming, they're crying, they're terrified of whatever it is that they're seeing. And again, I couldn't see anything there, but my first kind of thought was, oh god, there's something here that is terrifying these kids. And so my first instinct was to basically say, kind of in my head, because obviously I was with my workmate, I didn't want to look weird, you have no reason to be here, you have no right to be here, basically go into the light and leave these children alone. And I kept saying it and kept saying it mentally, and after about a minute or so, the children stopped screaming, stopped crying, and just kind of went back to playing. And my workmate and I kind of looked at each other and quickly decided, okay, maybe it's time to go and take the children and do something else with them that's not here, basically. That was probably the only kind of negative experience I had when I was there. I mean, I was there for about 5 years in total, and yeah, something that I always found quite interesting as well was the fact that activity always seemed to pick up a lot more in the autumn and the winter months than it did in the spring and the summer. And it was just kind of like, although like in the warmer months things would still happen, it would be kind of more subtle. Like I said, kind of more kind of shadow people out of the corner of your eye kind of thing. You know, you'd put something down in a place and turn around a minute later and it would be like on the other side of the room kind of thing. You know, and other times, yeah, it was a lot more in your face, obvious kind of thing. I remember there was one point where I actually saw an apparition. It wasn't as strong as some of the other occurrences that I've experienced that I've talked about in earlier videos, but I remember at one point there was some sort of party. I think it was like a Christmas party or something that we were having, and you know, they had like the balloons and the music playing and all sorts of stuff like that, and out of the corner of my eye I saw a young boy sat on top of one of the units, just kind of like watching everything going on around him. And for a moment I thought that, you know, it was one of our kids kind of sitting where they shouldn't be. So I turned around to tell him to get down because he'll fall off, and again there was no one there. So yeah, I like to think that it was, you know, perhaps one of the children from the workhouse days, you know, just kind of wanted to join in the fun a little bit, especially if they hadn't had much fun in life. And yeah, I still remember so clearly what he looked like. He had like kind of short brown hair and kind of blue trousers and like a little like white top. And yeah, it was kind of cool to be able to kind of see that and see that, you know, he'd wanted to come and join in the festivities as well. I think there were definitely one or two playful spirits there too, because one thing that a workmate of mine and I found fairly regularly was the fact that we would often hear our names be called when the other one wasn't there. At one point, she was, I believe, kind of like off sick one day, and I very distinctly heard her call my name in the particular way that she would call me. We would have this thing where we'd quite often not call each other by our first names but by our surnames. And so I heard this and looked up, and my first thought was, oh, what's she doing here? I thought she was sick. And I'd say this to one of my workmates who was in the room with me at the time, and she just kind of looked at me like, she's not here today. And yeah, I knew what I heard, and so that lunchtime I would message her like, so the mimic's at it again, and she'd say, oh really? Like, yeah. They're apparently pretending to be you. How are you feeling, by the way? And yeah, it would become a bit of a kind of running thing between us, really. But yeah, I found it quite interesting, the fact that clearly these spirits knew us by like watching us and watching our mannerisms and the way we interacted with each other, because it sounded so much like her, and apparently sounded so much like me when they were doing it to her. So yeah, that kind of makes me smile a bit, I have to admit. Obviously there are a lot more stories that not only I experienced when I was there, but also through other people who I worked with. Unfortunately, you know, if I went through all of them, we'd probably be here for hours. I mean, you know, I'd worked there for 5 years, so a lot of stuff happened, but these were kind of the main ones that stood out to me the most. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and a comment down below. And if you haven't already, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, don't forget, if you have any requests for future videos or a question for the Q&A, then be sure to leave those down below, or leave them in my Instagram inbox. And I will see you all next time. Till then, stay safe and sweet dreams.